At the very outset, I would like to place on record my sincere thanks to Honorable the Acting Chief Justice and to Honorable the Senior Judge for taking this initiative of organizing this event, given the challenging times. That speaks volumes about their personality, which we cannot ignore. Thank you, sir. As far as retirements are concerned, all of us know it's a pertinent moment for all of us. On the one hand, I'll be walking out from the corridors of this court with loads of nostalgia, which I shall be cherishing in the years to come, and that will what make me going. On the other hand, I'm quite excited about as to what the Almighty has planned in my second inning, because ultimately He has a game plan for all of us, whether it be the first inning or the second inning. And I'm sure with your blessings, He must have had made some plan which I fulfill to achieve with your blessings. Retirement for me is an occasion to express thanks and gratitude to all the individuals and personalities which have impacted my professional career, both as a lawyer as well as a judge. Now, in this regard, the first thanks would go to the Almighty for giving me whatever I have, whether it is corporeal or non-corporeal, whatever I have. Obviously, even though I may be a non-believer, but the credit must go to the Almighty. And then to my parents and my family. As you all know, I was an offspring of an interreligious marriage. And it is for this reason that my parents, and in particular my father, imparted two basic values in us. Number one, beta, there is no religion superior to the religion of humanism, insaniyat or manavta. You can't be a good Hindu, you can't be a good Muslim unless you are a good human being. Second value, beta, always be secular in your approach. Give respect to the religion of the other side. You may not be practicing your religion yourself, but you have to give respect to the believer of the other faith. Because according to him, religion was something very personal. It should be confined within the four walls of your house. It should not come on the road. The moment religion comes on the road, it ceases to be a religion. Now today, in retrospect, when I look back to these words, unfortunately my father is no more. How true are these words? And we are fortunate, I and my wife, that we have passed on these values to our children. As far as my professional journey is concerned, I may inform this august gathering that I joined this profession by default. I got admitted in the Campus Law Center in Delhi University, which was supposed to be the premier institute because Bangalore Law School had not been set up by then. I was admitted, and I am fortunate to have been taught by the legal luminaries of those times. And to name a few, personalities like Professor Upendra Bakshi, Dr. Mool Chand Sharma, who acquired international fame. I distinctly remember Mr. K.K. Venugopal had come to the Campus Law Center to address a workshop or a seminar, and the topic was professional skills needed for becoming a successful lawyer. Now when he came at the mic, he changed the topic. No, the organizers have not structured this topic correctly. Rather, it should be professional skills needed for becoming a good lawyer. Now at that time I was so naive, rather we were so naive in second year or first year, that we could not understand the difference of what is the difference between a successful lawyer and a good lawyer. But when I entered the bar, progressively with the passage of time, I did acquire the difference. that there is a difference. So always it was a constant endeavor to become a good lawyer. Your today should be better than yesterday. Because unless your today is better than yesterday as far as your intellectual capacity is concerned, you are just stagnating. So that is why I always tell junior lawyers, your today should be better than yesterday as far as intellectual. For that you must go on constantly reading. Now obviously once I graduated, so obviously my entire peer was joining Jada Chandi and Company, which was a premium corporate law firm in Delhi. But I happened to visit some lawyer, a senior professor lawyer, or some review. He said, no, you have come to the wrong court. Go to the district courts where you hail from. And then gradually you rise to superior courts. At that time, probably I thought, well, it's a polite no. But in retrospect, I believe that unless a lawyer is exposed to the district courts, you cannot be a good lawyer. That is why I landed in Bareilly, which happened to be my hometown. My mother was and is still, she is currently aged 91, staying with me, a leading gynecologist of the town. So obviously, getting an internship under a prominent lawyer, civil lawyer, was not a difficulty. And I joined the chambers of Shri Govind Prasad Verma, a prominent civil lawyer. Now this gentleman was a genius. Now, if you want to know, probably Mr. Saunders may be aware of it, and Mr. Naveen Sinha, senior advocate, Mr. Satish Dwivedi, that he, way back in 1984-85, when I joined him, he used to come to the high courts and used to argue full benches. And one of the full benches which he argued on Order 15, Rule 5, is violative of the Central Act of 104 of 1976, is argued by him. So I had the privilege of getting a lawyer at my district. I joined his chamber, and the first sermon which he gives me is, forget whose son you are. If you want to become a good lawyer, first you have to become a good munshi. Because munshis in district court are accorded a very, very high status and respect. The clients are more interested, भैया मुंशी जी से आप उनको बना कर रखिए, वकील साहब तो कहीं भी पहुंच जाएंगे. So that is how my journey started. Mr. Verma used to bring me to Allahabad. I was exposed to Allahabad. Unfortunately, he died. But the moment I was exposed to Allahabad High Court, this building, this magnificent building, I decided, well, now this is going to be my future destination. He died. Then I was taken up by his second associate junior who had already established his practice, a gentleman called Mr. Radha Kamal Saraswat. Now, whosoever has some Bareilly connection will know that he is a thorough gentleman, a professional lawyer. He took me under his fold, where I picked up the basics. Pankaj, if you have to be a civil lawyer, then always try to be a defendant rather than be a plaintiff. So I acquired civil law, I learned civil law from these two chambers. Then, sometimes in 1988, my maternal uncle, Mr. Jagdish Mohan Pant, was the Administrator General Official Trustee over here. He said, why don't you come and take your charge? Come and stay with me. Well, I said, Mama, well, I'll come, no problem. I shifted, I was bachelor, I was not yet married. I shifted. He got me attached to a gentleman called Mr. Lalji Sinha. Probably most of you must be knowing that he happened to be the senior standing counsel for the railway administration, and those days the railways had heavy filing. So I joined his chambers, and there Justice Amish Thalkar was already there. So when both of us were elevated from the same chamber on the same day, probably I was told that it's some sort of a record in the annals of Allahabad history. Now, while working in the chambers of Mr. Sinha, I came across a senior gentleman, a very highly respected gentleman called Mr. V. Upadhyaya, senior advocate. Now, my coming in contact with him changed my future, I would say. Somehow he developed a liking for me. I don't know what was that. But it was a mutual like, absolutely down-to-earth person, a humble person, He knew that I was desperately looking for work, but I was not in a position to ask for work. He came and said, Pankaj, there is an opening in Banaras Hindu University for a standing counsel. Would you be interested? Just imagine how many people are there to make you such an offer. Immediately he forwarded my name. Me along with Mr. V. Upadhyay, senior advocate, we were both inducted, and that continued relationship for almost more than 20 years in my relation. Upadhyay ji was more than a father to me. And the best, and he used to always say, Pankaj, always ensure that justice should be tempered with mercy. Don't be too technical and pedantic in your approach. Because after all, a person has come to the High Court, the mere fact that he has come to the High Court, he should, if possible, just give him something if his case comes within the four corners of the case. So I got to learn. He also shared me. In fact, it so happened that I was more attached with seniors than people of my age group. My wife always used to say, well, you have already become too old. Why you are always associating yourself with seniors? Where are the young lawyers? We should have friends with young lawyers also. So I used to have my afternoon tea with Upadhyay ji on a daily basis in that table, in that bar association. And he used to share me the anecdotes which he used to have, because he had interned under Mr. Gopal Pathak and Mr. R. Pathak ji. So he had plenty of stories to tell us, which I enjoyed. Through V. Upadhyay ji, I came in contact with Mr. Vinod Kumar Upadhyay, the learned senior advocate, a fine gentleman, a suave personality, soft-spoken, whom I got to learn. And I can say confidently that whatever I am today, it's because of this gentleman. He taught me the values, never to enter into a confrontation. Politely and calmly raise your submission before the court and then leave it to the court. Because I came from a school where I was taught by my senior in the district court, lose a case, lose a client, but never lose the court. Because I had a tendency of becoming brash, I must confess honestly, at times. But then he said, you have a good case, but just maintain your calm and cool. That was a great. Thank you, Mr. Upadhyay. Thank you so much for your kind words. Then another family which I came across was Mr. S.N. Baba, senior advocate. What a fine gentleman he was. His son, Mr. Sharad Verma, also spoke. In fact, God has stopped making persons like Mr. Sharad Verma. He also knew that Pankaj wants work. And he used to get me small briefs from his chambers, where the clients could not afford Mr. S.N. Verma. How many people are there who are willing to sacrifice all this? And the Vermas virtually adopted our entire family. I don't remember a single year, as long as uncle and auntie were alive, that they had not called us to wish on our birthdays and anniversaries. That speaks volumes of that great family. Thank you, uncle. Now coming to the institution. As we all know, the institution is not made of cement and mortar. The institution is made by the people who adorn this institution. All of us know who are those people. For us, we should always remember, especially the youngsters, that Constitution is our Bible. We are sown to the Constitution. We will live and die for the Constitution. I somehow noticed some decline, and to my mind it appears that decline is attributable to the absence of a chamber system. When we came, chambers was like a gurukul, where we were taught certain values. And one of the values which I was taught by Upadhyay was, never discuss the conduct of a judge in ये कोई नसीहत देने वाला है नहीं. So I implore the senior advocates, the distinguished members of the bar, to please focus on these issues. Because I find the lawyers, they just don't know how to address it in the chair also. At times, you pass a comment when they are not aware as to what the court is looking at. So something needs to be done. I want to thank my wife, Samina, and my children, Aman and Sania, because I want to thank my wife particularly for the reason that she bore my enough tantrums, because I always refused to go with her out to have a cup of coffee or to a restaurant on account of professional compulsions. Very rarely I accompanied her. In fact, so now I think she will have, in fact rather I will have no excuse to say no to her. So that is one thing she can look forward to. I want to thank the registry for coming to my rescue both professionally as well as personally. I want to thank Mr. Ashish Srivastava for Registrar Protocol for always coming to my aid whenever I needed his help at a personal level. I want to thank my personal staff, without which I could not have completed this journey, and to name them, my three private secretaries, Mr. Rakesh Singh, Mr. Nirpen Singh Rathore, Mr. Chandra Prakash, and my bench secretaries, Mr. Dilip Kumar Mishra, Mr. Rais Hashim, my law trainees, Mr. Digvijay Tiwari, Mr. Anurag Sharma, my driver Sushil Tiwari, my orderly Mr. Vinod Kumar, my PMs Om Prakash, Vijay Bahadur Yadav, Rupesh, Sachin, Rohit, and my PSOs Muhammad Aslam and Mewada. They left no stone unturned in acceding to whatever request I was made, howsoever illegitimate, howsoever unreasonable it was. If a work is to be done, they always complied with that request. Now, before I wind, I extend my sincere apologies with folded hands to all the members of the bar that evidently, if ever I have committed any impertinence, that should be just ignored. Let bygones be bygones. There was no intentional or ill feeling from my part, so that I should go with a light heart from this institution. I just want to add it with one couplet. मेरी हर सांस इस बात की शाहिद है, मेरी हर सांस इस बात की शाहिद है, दोस्त मैंने हर लुत्फ के मौके पर तुझे याद किया. On that note, I take leave. Wish you all the best, all the very best, good health to you and your members of the family, and may God give you whatever you aspire for. Thank you. Jai Hind.